Guys, today we're going to look at solving equations, and solving equations is something you know how to do, but today we're going to look at some answers that look a little bit different from what you're used to, in the sense that they're not going to be nice, neat integers that you're used to. So you're going to end up with a lot of fractional answers. In the first example, we have an equation that you've seen before that it is something you would be comfortable with. You're trying to get variables on one side and numbers on the other, so you would add n to both sides. That would give you 2n plus 2 equals negative 14. And then you would subtract 2 to get the numbers on the other side of the equal sign. 2n equals negative 16. Divide both sides by 2. N equals negative 8. This is something you've done a lot in the past, last year. If you have some like terms that can be combined before you start moving things to the opposite side of the equal sign, you should do that. So like in example 2, on the left side of the equal sign, I have positive 6b and negative 2b, which would give me 4b, and I have negative 14 and positive 7, which would give me negative 7. And I copy down the rest. Once I'm here, everything's been combined as much as possible. I try to move the variables onto one side. So in this problem, I'm actually going to subtract 4b. It's okay to get the b on the right side of the equal sign, because I would prefer it to be positive. And then I'm going to subtract 1, and I have b on the right-hand side equals negative 8. Okay. Example 3 is an example where you have some parentheses indicating that you have to distribute first. So always make sure that you distribute first. So you have 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times negative 3n is negative 12n. Bring down everything else. And I have like terms that can be combined. So I'm going to combine negative 2n and negative 12n, and that's going to give me negative 14n plus 4 on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, I have negative 6n minus 20. Now I can start moving things to the opposite side of the equal sign. So I'm going to add 14n to both sides. And that'll give me 8n minus 20 equals 4. I'll add 20 to both sides. That gives me 8n equals 24. And this is where you divide 8n equals 3. All right. This is all stuff that you should be familiar and comfortable with. So we're going to add a new piece, which is where your answers are not going to necessarily be nice, neat integers. They're going to be fractions sometimes. So if you look at example 4, I wrote a little note on top. Fractional answers, if you can't divide evenly at the end, always express your answer as a fraction. So you'll see what I mean as we go through example 4. I will start by, I have the distributive property in 2 places. So I'm going to have negative 3x plus 3, because negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3, plus 8x minus 24. And I'm going to copy down the rest of the equation. You have like terms to be combined. Negative 3x and positive 3x, positive 8x is 5x. Positive 3 and negative 24 is going to give us negative 21. Copy everything. Actually, before I copy on the right-hand side, I can combine, I'm working on erasing here. Here we go. I can combine 8x and x to give us 9x minus 11. And now I will try to get x's on one side. I will subtract 5x. That'll give me negative 21 equals 4x minus 11. I will add 11. That gives me negative 10 equals 4x. So this is the part where you get here and you go, wait a minute, where's my calculator? No, don't pull out your calculator. You want to just stay with the fractions. Stay away from your calculator, divide by 4, because that's what's multiplying by x. And what you see here is your answer, negative 10/4. X equals negative 10 over 4. The only thing is you have to reduce it to lowest terms. And by lowest terms, I mean divide both of them by 2, because they're both divisible by 2, and get it to x equals -5/2, and leave it as an improper fraction. Now, if you give me -2.5, that's okay. It's not wrong. I won't take off points. But we generally, in high school and college math, we don't change it over to mixed numbers. We actually leave them as improper fractions because they're easier to work with if you then had to do another operation with that number. Okay, so on my answer keys, I'll always leave things as improper fractions if you can't divide evenly. And that's it. So do not use your calculator, no decimals. So that's what this title means over here, this subtitle. It's telling you if you can't divide evenly at the end, always express your answer as a fraction, never ever as a decimal. If you give me a decimal, decimals you'll lose points. Okay? Decimals are a point deduction on a test. Okay, we are only expressing as fractions. And our last example is where we end up with 0, which feels generally uncomfortable to kids. So I called it, the little subtitle, 0 is a number 2. Okay, don't get confused because you get 0 in a problem. So let me go through that example. We're going to distribute first. So I have 4x minus 20 plus 8x plus 12 equals 3x minus 8. I am going to combine like terms. 4x and 8x give us 12x. Negative 20 and positive 12 give us negative 8. Once you have your like terms combined on each side, I'm going to subtract over the 3x to get the x's on the left. I have 9x minus 8 equals negative 8. And add 8. 9x equals, and then kids sometimes feel uncomfortable, negative 8 plus 8 is 0. If there's nothing left on one side of the equal sign, you have to fill in a 0. And then you just go through your normal steps. Like, how would you isolate x? You would divide, right? So you divide by 9, and 0 divided by 9 is 0. 0 divided by any number equals 0. Okay, not to be confused by when you divide by 0. So some people think of, you guys did learn last year, you can't divide by 0. So if you had some number, any number, divided by 0, the result is called undefined. You can't divide by 0. There's no possible answer to that. Okay, so for example, 0 divided by 8 is 0 because when I multiply these two numbers, 0 times 8, my answer is 0. But if I took 8 and divided, oh, let me go back to black. If I took 8 and divided by 0, there's no possible answer because when I multiply 0 times something, there's no way I'm going to get 8 as my answer. Okay. Also, when you're solving this problem, a different approach could have been, you could have, instead of doing what I did here, some kids could have possibly chosen to add 8 to both sides. If that happens, then that's okay. You have 12x equals 3x, but kids oftentimes get stuck here. What you want to do is you want to subtract to get the x's onto one side. So you would subtract 3x, and you would end up with 9x equals, again, nothing's left there, so you have to write 0, and then you end up with the same answer. Divide by 9, x equals 0. Okay, so use your notes to help you on your homework tonight. You're going to have lots of answers that are fractions or 0, and that's something we just have to get comfortable with. Okay, thanks.